All right. Well, I'm Nick,
I'm
and
Amanda.
yeah, and I don't exactly remember when I started following. I followed you first, Amanda, on Twitter, and just sort of saw that you guys were releasing this album. And I got to be super honest, I'm not a big fan of black metal, but this album is killer. I fucking love it. It's so good. Um, So I guess to start off, like, how did you two meet? How did you guys start working together?
Um, I mean, it's quite an interesting one, to be fair. We were just sort of Twitter mutuals for quite a while. I'd commented on quite a few of Amanda's sort of weekly listening habit things and realized that we had quite a lot in common. I think later on, Amanda shared something that was sort of like Ashenheart looking for a vocalist. I sort of dismissed it at first and thought, I'm not good enough for that. And I think it was probably a good couple of weeks, couple of months, maybe even later. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to that and say, hey, Amanda, how about me? So yeah, here we are.
Yeah, that's what I remember as well.
So, Amanda, did you have a lot of vocalists that tried out for the part?
About five, if I remember.
Nice. So, Alex was the one, I guess, that you liked the most.
Yeah, his vocals just really fit the project, and the stuff he sent me required very minimal like mixing and processing, which was nice.
Yeah, I do have to say that, like, black metal for me, the vocals are make or break. And Alex, your shrieks, your screams are awesome. How did you
Thank
like?
you. That's really
How did
kind.
you
I
get
didn't
into
even know I
doing
could
that?
do that until recently. So yeah.
How did you discover that? How did you start getting into it?
It was trying out for Ashenheart, to be honest. I'd done a few bits in the past, like that didn't really go anywhere, that were clean vocal stuff and a little bit of like doomy, lower guttural stuff. But I'd not really found my black metal voice before, and in doing this and in trying out for Ashenheart, I sort of realised, hey, actually, I can do that. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was a discovery, but a fun one.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty
it's
awesome.
it's impressive. I mean, I used to do vocals like this before I got COVID, and that destroyed my lung capacity.
Oh yeah,
And it's not easy. I mean, especially to come out of the gate with that well of a developed voice. It's like I said, really impressive.
Thank you.
yeah, for
I
sure.
appreciate it.
I can play several instruments, but vocals have just never been something that I can do. I can't sing, can't scream, can't do any of that. So when I see people who do have that honed skill, I'm always super impressed by it.
Yeah,
I'm I'm sort of the opposite in that I'm always just super jealous of anybody who's got musical talent with a guitar or something like that. Because I've tried several times to teach myself guitar and just never really got anywhere. So yeah,
So Amanda, you taught yourself to play, right? If I
I
remember
taught
correctly.
myself. Yes, I taught myself to play guitar first. Actually, it was piano first. That actually had a little bit of formal training on that before I got my first guitar when I was 12. And after that was bass and then drums, which is probably my worst instrument, but I'm still pretty good at. I just don't have a space right now to record real drums.
Yeah, I feel that drums are my main instrument, but I don't have a kit or anywhere to record right now. So I'll pop into the local guitar center and go practice for a little bit sometimes, but that's about all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an investment in, not annoying your neighbors, and being able to set up a kit somewhere in your home or apartment is not always on the table.
Yeah, for sure. With that said, though, like, drums are my main instrument. That's what I usually listen first in music and the drums on Faded Gold, they sound awesome. It's one of my favorite parts of the record.
Thanks. That's just I really appreciate that because I put a lot of I put a lot of time and effort into drum programming, which is probably one of my least favorite things on the planet. But that's mostly just stock Easy Drummer 3 metal machine with some reverb and a couple other light settings tweaks. It's nothing really major. I'm really a fan of that program and the sounds it gets. It feels very real and natural.
Yeah, it does. The snare in particular has a really good punch to it that makes a lot of the beats on the album feel more powerful.
Yeah, a bad snare is one of my pet peeves, so
Uh-huh.
I put some extra time into making that sound good because it's really noticeable if it sounds bad.
Definitely. Uh so how did you get started playing black metal? Was it just like you listened to it a lot and thought maybe I'll give this a try, or did it just kind of come naturally to you?
When I was about 13, I first heard In the Night Side Eclipse by Emperor, and I'd never heard anything like that before. And just the guitars and the keys on the interplay between those two, and the fact that it really demanded multiple listens to be able to really understand what was going on and parse the songs was kind of a revelation to me for someone coming from someone who mainly listened to stuff like Metallica and Megadeth, where those are very immediate artists. Where there is, I'm not saying there's not depth, but there's definitely they put more up front than something like Emperor, where you really have to, partially because of the production, but you really have to dig to get all the harmonies and melodies and whatnot. And I like that kind of started, well, I think my dad making me listen to Frank Zappa is what kind of started my obsession with music that asks something of the listener.
Yeah, Zappa's wild. I love Frank,
So,
but like there's a lot going on there.
yeah. So I think my thing was just I heard this genre of music, and the more I listened to it, the more I thought, hey, I really want to make this genre myself. And at that time, there was absolutely no way I could play like that because I'd only been playing guitar for about a year. But I started practicing, via like uh, Ultimate Guitar tabs
Oh yeah.
back when that was a free thing.
Yeah.
And, I learned the techniques and I just practiced and practiced and practiced. And eventually I got here.
Yeah, that's awesome cuz is this the first album that you've recorded, or have you done other kind of musical ventures in the past?
I had a death metal band, and then I had a black metal band called the Pale Blood Hunt, where I did vocals and guitar. Both of those were just kind of confined to my local area. We burned some CDRs and sold them for like $1. Um, but this is the first time I've ever released an album like this to the general public. That's this accessible and available.
Yeah, I mean, definitely from both of you, this does not sound like a debut. This sounds like you guys have been doing this for quite some time. So
Thanks.
definitely
And I mean,
impressive.
yeah, that's amazing to hear on my part because I mean, even less so than Amanda, I've not really done anything like this before. We've got to rehearsal stages with bands, and that's about as far as it's got. So yeah, that's
Uh,
cool.
some of these songs were written as far back as like 2011,
Oh wow.
and I've been writing since around then for this project, but I just put them on the back burner because I was also working on other bands. And after the Pale Blood Hunt kind of disintegrated, I decided to really refine this stuff. And in the end, I had about 24 songs. So there's a lot of material that I cut that could have gone on the album because I like albums. I mean, I like Swans. The Seer is one of my favorite albums of all time, and
Mine too. Yes.
that's like 2 hours long.
Hmm.
But it takes a special kind of album to demand that much time investment, I think. And
Yeah.
for something like this, I just thought a shorter runtime that left the listener wanting more would make them go back to it again and again. And it's lean and mean, and I prefer that most of the time.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. The album's what, maybe 30, 32 minutes or something.
Yeah, I
I
think it's like
wouldn't
33.
Yeah. I wouldn't be mad if it had like two more tracks on it, but the way that it ends and like the way that it builds up to that final track, Weave Thy Night into Being, it it lands perfectly. Like it doesn't need any more to it. And as you said, it does leave the listener wanting more. I'm already waiting for the next Ashenheart album. Uh, are you guys already working on that, or have you discussed it at all, or what's going on with your kind of future plans?
I am, yes, actually.
Nice.
I've got one song mostly recorded and another song written, and I'm thinking probably next late spring, early summer, I'll have it done, or out at least. I'll have it out.
Cool.
I mean, I can probably finish it by this winter if I really buckle down.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's the thing about that track list is I kind of wanted it to also flow in the direction that the game naturally does, with Weave Thy Night into being the end of the game, and Ronnie's ending, and Faded Gold being kind of an intro. So that was very much intentional. And I went back and forth. Do I want to add another track to the middle? Do I want to shuffle stuff around? But I was overthinking it, and sometimes it's best to just keep things simple.
Yeah, I agree with that. Uh, for those of us, including myself, who haven't actually played the game, can you kind of give a rundown of what your inspirations were from the game for the album and kind of how you approached it lyrically and thematically?
Yeah, I guess like Faded, the title track is just kind of an overview of the world. And once we got that done, and once we decided on having the clean intro with the spoken word, I decided that I wanted that to be the intro to the album. But the thing with Elden Ring is there's so much you can pull from, and I decided that after these songs came together, they sounded like something that would be best if they were centered around some of the more memorable boss encounters in the game. So I ended up, it'd been about a year since I played, so I played through it again, and that helped with writing the lyrics, which are pretty simple, but they're mainly, I'm not a deep lyricist or anything, but I just kind of wanted them to be representative of the lore behind these characters and what their boss encounters were like, and how they became what they are in the game.
I see. So, like I said, I haven't played the game, but Star Scourge in particular makes me really want to play the game. I love the lyrics on that track. I love the vibe of that track. It's just it seems so badass, and it really makes me want to play through the game.
Thank you. I think you'd like that boss encounter a lot. It's really something.
And then, Alex, are you a fan of the game as well, or were you just kind of coming into the lyrics, approaching them as a
I
vocalist?
have to admit, when we were partway through recording it, I said to Amanda, "Look, I actually haven't played the Elden Ring game at all." So I got her to send her over a bunch of links to read up on the lore. I did start doing that. I didn't get very far into it because I got so absorbed in recording the vocals, but it has made me want to go and play it as well because I mean, the whole thing's fascinating. I'm a big video game fan myself. It's just that's not one that I've got to just yet, but it's on my
Yeah,
list.
yeah, it's mine too. I think I've owned Dark Souls 1 for like 7 years, and I've never gotten around to it just because I know I'm going to get really into that game and that style of game, and I'm going to want to play through all of them, and I don't have the time to do that. So,
Yeah. Elden Ring is the longest, sort of.
okay.
It depends on how much side stuff you do, but it's also the easiest. Um, and I'm not saying that like, oh, the earlier stuff was harder. You're a scrub or anything, but you
Right.
basically decide your own difficulty because if you get stuck on something, you can always just go off and do other things and usually get more powerful. And the DLC is kind of a different story because the DLC is like eating your favorite ice cream while being dragged over hot coals. But yeah, it's the best entry point to that subgenre, honestly.
Okay, cool. I'm going to have to check that out then because I've been a fan of like the concept of those games since they were new, but just never got around to playing any of them.
Yeah, I started with Demon Souls on the PS3, which was, I much like hearing Emperor for the first time, I realized that I'd never played anything quite like this. I guess the closest would be one of the Kingsfield games they made previously, but even those kind of lacked just the way the world was, all these gigantic cyclopean castles and these huge twisted bosses and, interesting characters and the somber tone. It was all just everything gelled there.
Mhm.
And they've just been iterating on that since with that series. And I think Elden Ring is actually somewhat more hopeful than Dark Souls is, and I think that's what drew a lot of people to it, made it so popular.
I see. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be playing that pretty soon then. Uh, to switch gears a little bit, this is a question for both of you. What kind of music, like outside of the black and death metal realm, were you all listening to while writing and or recording the album, and how did that influence your performances on the album?
I think for myself, I mean, I'm just massively into all kinds of metal anyway. So like, always been a big fan of the sort of classic era metal. The Dio in particular is a big influence on me. I like the way the guy could get such power behind his voice is definitely something that's always made me try and push a little bit more out of my vocal performances. Like anything that Dio's been involved with, really, he's turned to gold. Like he had the solo project. His time in Sabbath was just like phenomenal. And those first three Rainbow albums as well are just always near the top of my sort of top of my listening pile. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. While we were recording, I was mostly listening to the stuff that Amanda had said that she was sort of going for a similar vibe to. So a lot of Ison, Emperor, and then like Dark Throne are always a big one for me as well in
Mhm.
terms of the stuff that I go to.
Same. I I was listening to a lot of stuff. I'm very scattered in my musical tastes. Stuff like Terminal Nation, Chapel Rowan, Coheed and Cambria, Full of Hell. The new Full of Hell album was kind of a big one for me because it's a bit more melodic and accessible than their
Yeah,
previous stuff, which isn't, that's not saying a ton, but
right. But
just the kind of the cold and clustered and really dense soundscapes on that album inspired some of my guitar layering and arranging.
yeah,
And
I can hear that for sure.
there I was listening to a lot of Spirit Box and Meshuggah, which kind of inspired me to use, all this stuff was written on an 8 string, but I don't I don't think I even used the 8th string on Weave Thy Night into Being. So it kind of inspired me to incorporate that a little more into some of these songs, like Lord of Blasphemy and Last Lord of Fire are very 8 string heavy.
Yeah, for sure. I do have to say, Last Lord of Fire is my favorite track on the album. That one just, it
Mine
rips.
too.
It's, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
And I've
that's
seen that from a lot of people actually
I
online.
have too.
That one just is awesome.
And that was one of the last ones I actually finished writing. Um, that and Lord of Blasphemy were the last 2 tracks I finalized. So I switched some things up, I think, for the better with those. And yeah, I really like how they turned out. But I was all over the place. I was really on a Sturgill Simpson kick for a while.
Love him.
Jury's kind of out on how that actually influenced how I was writing, but I think everything you do listen to and get really into leaves some sort of mark on your own art.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Uh, the the album, despite being a pretty like strictly black metal album, does feel like it has a lot of outside influences from other genres on it.
Oh, definitely. Death metal is probably my other biggest one.
Yeah, yeah,
There's going to be more of that on the new album. He's I'm going to try and incorporate some weirder death metal like Discord or Gorguts Light because I'm not Luke LeMay and I
yeah.
can't play like that. But
Right.
yeah, it really kind of depends. I'll be listening to something and maybe I'll hear a melody I like or just an arrangement or even a mood and I'm like, "Ooh, I really like that. How should I incorporate that into my own music?" And sometimes it's not even that conscious. Sometimes it just gets stuck in my head, and when I'm writing, it ends up coming out.
Yeah, no, I feel that for sure. I'm kind of the same way. One of the tracks that I'm working on for my upcoming album was inspired by Brian Eno, early 2000s trap music and Telephone Tel Aviv. So I was like, I was listening to a lot of that stuff, and I just kind of was like, I want to make something that somehow combines these three. Uh, we'll see how that goes when that comes out. But
That
yeah,
sounds interesting for sure. Yeah.
I definitely get that concept.
I have a
Uh,
ton of I have a ton of other musical stuff, songs, ideas, snippets that I have saved, and they're really good in my opinion, but they just don't work with what Ashenheart is.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you were throwing around the idea of something like a black and new metal project as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I actually have a lot of stuff I've like snippets and partial songs again that I've recorded for that. I just have to put them together into something coherent.
That's cool. I assume that you're a fan of Gone Mage
Yeah,
Memoridge.
Gary
Yeah,
Gary is amazing.
Gary's awesome. Uh, Switching gears a little bit again, can you all tell me a little bit about your recording process, like the gear that you use, DAWs, all of that?
I'll go first because mine will be really quick. I used this mic right here, and a really cheap netbook because that was the only equipment I had at the time. I'm working on upgrading for the next album, but I managed to get what I needed out of this mic, so
Yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah.
all good for me.
Yeah, and it sounds good. And he asked me, should I upgrade? And I'm like, if you want, but yeah, what you've got right now seems to be doing the job.
Cool.
Anyway,
I'll in which case I'll probably stick with it then. To be honest, I mean it was just like the cheapest USB mic I could possibly find at the time, but it does a good job. I don't even think it's a branded one particularly. It's just one I picked up online. So yeah,
Yeah, I
well,
mean, it
it's
sounds great.
very much in the spirit of the genre.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So we Faded Gold was recorded. Um, it was written on a whole bunch of different guitars, but all of it was recorded on my Schecter 8-string, tuned to F standard,
Okay.
and um, I use Reaper for my DAW because that's what I learned on,
Yeah,
and
that makes
it
sense.
does everything I want it to. So I've never really felt the need to upgrade to stuff like Ableton or Pro Tools or whatnot.
Yeah.
And the primary plugins I use are for guitar. I use the Neural DSP Archetype Gohira for this album, although I've switched to the Fortin Nameless suite for the next album. You can hear that on Blood Behind the Stars, which is a B-side that I put out. For bass, I used, what was it again? Oh yeah, Brainworks SVTVR, which is a really good bass sim that I just run my cheapo 6-string bass through. And I mean, apart from stuff like Dragonfly Reverb and Easy Drummer 3, that's basically the whole signal chain right there. I have, for keys, I used a freeware plugin. I think it was just called Black Metal Keys. And yeah, I mean, it's a very simple signal chain, um, with some slight tweaking for guitar tracks individually. Like for some of the lead stuff, I used the Neural DSP Mesa Mark II, which sounds really good, clean and lightly overdriven. So
Yeah,
sometimes,
that's
yeah, it's I don't do a lot of blending. I don't do a lot of complicated After Effects. It's pretty simple, and I like it that way because if I change something and I don't like it, I can just easily go back and reset it without having to dig through everything.
right. Yeah. I'm personally a big fan of keeping things simple. I've recorded multiple albums with a little $10 Casio keyboard that I got at Goodwill like 15 years ago. So, it's the right tool for the job, I guess. Like Alex with your microphone, just if it works, then it works.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
yeah. What has been you guys' reactions to how this album's being received? I saw just this morning you guys passed 1,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which is huge. Congratulations to you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
How are you feeling about this?
A little bit sort of. It doesn't feel real in a way because like with everything having been done completely remotely between the two of us, and obviously for obvious reasons we don't play live either. It's just watching the numbers grow. That's sort of the only way we get a feel as to how well it's doing, and seeing the comments come in on social media and stuff like that. And yeah, it's honestly mind blowing the fact that people have picked up on this and seem to be really loving it. Like I don't think I've seen a negative comment yet, which for a a metal release on social media is quite something, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel much the same way. I mean, I expected a modest amount of attention, going by how many people streamed and bought the singles on Bandcamp. But I mean, our Spotify listeners more than doubled overnight, several times, and that's just insane to me. Like, it kind of breaks my brain. I'm really not used to this many eyes on my music, and as someone who's generally a pretty private person, it's there's a whole bunch of complicated emotions, not really bad or anything, just stuff I'm not used to dealing with mixed up in that.
Right. Yeah. And then the last question that I had for y'all is kind of what did you learn in the process of kind of recording and releasing this album, and how are you going to take those lessons moving into the next one?
I think for me it was sort of more a personal lesson than anything musically, and that was just to go for it. Like as I sort of mentioned earlier, I'd sort of held myself back from putting myself forward for the vocals on this project because I just sort of thought to myself, nah, I'm not good enough. And when I saw it come up again, I was like, why not? Let's just go for it. And honestly, since I did that, I've been applying that sort of more positive mindset to a lot of things that I've been trying to do, and just go for it, just do the thing. I think it's Ali on Twitter actually who always says just do the thing, and I kind of took that to heart in this instance, and yeah, did the thing, and here we are.
It's much the same way for me. I mean, being completely self-taught, a musician who only knows what I would consider to be basic theory, I've always felt very self-conscious and how should I put this? Um, like I wasn't as good as everyone else, and that because I didn't have formal training, my music wouldn't be as good as everyone else's. And I've struggled with that for a long time. And what this has mainly taught me is that, I mean, yeah, I think we made a pretty amazing album. And
Yeah, we did.
you're better, you're better than you think you are, and you should just put your art out there, even if you think it sucks, especially if you think it sucks. And apart from some technical stuff on the mixing side that's kind of boring, like specific compressor settings and whatnot, that's the biggest takeaway from this for me, is that you should just go for it. Like Alex said, that's the most important thing when making art.
Yeah,
In my
I agree
opinion.
with that too. I've struggled a lot with, you know, thinking that I don't have the talent to take up space in any sort of artistic sphere. But yeah, like just go for it. For anybody out there who's watching this, just do the thing. And you never know, you might release a bomb ass album with some person that you met online, and then it's gonna take off and be something that's really cool for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
thank you both for chatting with me. And is there anything else that you guys would like to say to anyone out there who's watching?
Just thank you for supporting us. It means the world, really.
Yeah, just echo Amanda's sentiments on that one. Thanks very much for everybody that's either streamed the album or bought a copy of it so far. Also, I'd just like to say hi to Amanda, because this is the first time we've actually spoken to each other outside of text messages.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
All of this album was coordinated using Dropbox and Twitter messages.
Nice.
But yeah, and thank you for having us as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
yeah, this is something that I've been toying with for a while, is the idea of actually interviewing people for my channel, but the opportunity just kind of presented itself. And Alex, like you said, I put myself out there, and this has been really awesome to chat with you both. So
Likewise, thanks.
yeah, thank you guys, and I'll see you both on Twitter.
Yep. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
See you
for
later.
having us. Bye.
Bye.
What's up, everybody? Post-production Nick here. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Ashenheart. I had a lot of fun recording it with them and just chatting to both of them, getting to know them, and kind of the thought process behind making their album. And as of when I'm recording this, they only need 4 copies to be pre-ordered to make a CD run of the album. So if you're interested in supporting them, I will have a link in the description box to do that. Hopefully by the time this goes live, that run will already be fulfilled and you won't need to pre-order it. But still do that so that you can support them, so that they can actually get those copies made. I do believe they are considering a vinyl release as well, if that's your kind of thing. And of course, supporting them digitally by purchasing their album on Bandcamp is always helpful. The next Bandcamp Friday is September 6th, so if you want to support them a little more than usual, you can wait till then to purchase that. Otherwise, Faded Gold by Ashenheart is available on all streaming services, and you can listen to it there to support them in a slightly less monetarily significant way. But let's go ahead and push up that Spotify monthly listeners count, because that is super helpful for them as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. I'm hoping to do some more interviews like this in the future, so we will see how that goes. And yeah, have a good week, everyone. Bye.